Okay, Chapter 10, Mental Health Promotion for Adults. As you read along in the textbook, keep the following objectives in mind. You want to be able to describe the family life cycle, identify the benefits of going to college, identify different reasons young people stay home longer than in the past, identify the difference between underweight, normal weight, overweight, and obese, and finally discuss various community and environmental interventions aimed to prevent mental health problems among young adults. All right, the issue here is the transition from adolescence to adulthood. That transition is rooted in the change in roles and responsibilities that come along with entering adulthood, and they persist as we remain in adulthood. But really, that's the issue that we're talking about here. Right, you start to think about all the changes and feelings of being overwhelmed as you start to take on new responsibilities. You know, leaving home. Do you go to college, or do you enter the workforce, or maybe even the military? Many people begin their families during this period. When you enter into a relationship with someone, they bring a lot of factors to the relationship that you may not be accustomed to. Issues that they have, their socioeconomic status, their family background, their occupational history, those sorts of things. Becoming parents. So there's a lot that's going on as a person transitions from adolescence to adulthood. Okay, so leaving home can be a major adjustment for many people. The changes in responsibility may initiate feelings of stress. Trying to figure all this stuff out. What am I going to be? Am I doing the right things to set myself up for success? You start looking around at what other people are doing. Start gauging, your progress compared to someone else. Should I be saving for retirement, or is that something that I wait? I put off till later, or should I be considering purchasing a home, or those sorts of things. So that's really what drives a lot of mental stress in individuals during this transition period. Okay, education attainment. All right, so education attainment is different than intelligence or knowledge. When we see the word education attainment, what we're looking at is, what is the highest level of education that the person has achieved? Is it a high school diploma, an associate's degree, bachelor's degree, master's degree, PhD, some other type of professional preparation? So that's what we're looking at. And a lot of times when you look at how statistics are reported, education attainment is a pretty common category. And the idea is that the higher the attainment, right, it implies that the more knowledge the individual has just in general. But as we kind of consider all the different majors that are out there, the higher degrees tend to be more narrowly focused to a specific topic. So, that's why we don't want to automatically assume that someone that, has an advanced degree, just has a vast amount of knowledge. Well, they may about a particular subject area, but, what about others? So again, education attainment, just recognize that that's not a measure of intelligence. Let's see. As with many outcomes, right, if we go down here and look at the bottom, disparities exist across many group characteristics. In this case, we're looking at race. So here we're looking at high school graduation rates. We have some slight, we'd have to look at the data to see if these were statistically significant differences. But at this point, just consider that, hey, what about race? could explain these numbers. And usually what we find is that, well, maybe it's not a direct relationship, maybe an indirect. What are some other factors that go along with being each of these races that could explain the deviation that we see here? I mentioned opportunities previously. Having a high school diploma doesn't guarantee success, but when we consider the statistics, it can certainly help, right? So we look at how income changes, how employment status changes. The General Education Development Test, the GED. So the GED is the solution for those that did not graduate high school for whatever reason, and again, can't return to the classroom. Maybe they've kind of become older, or maybe it's just that kind of setting didn't work out for them. Maybe they're hospitalized, whatever the reason. There is a high school diploma equivalency, and that is the GED. It's an opportunity for people to get back on track. However, we must consider why the person was unable to get a traditional high school diploma in the first way, right? It could be reasons, again, outside their control, sickness, maybe they had to travel or relocate.
You've got mail.
But it could be a situation where, it could have been disciplinary issues, it could be underlying mental health issues that didn't make the classroom setting that conducive. We're not dealing with causal relationships, but there can be many reasons, circumstances that act as challenges to the person attaining the high school diploma, which makes the GED a more viable option. But you start to look at these struggles, tend to less make money. There's still a bias when people are reviewing applications, and someone has a high school diploma, someone else has a GED. A person may see one as not being the same as the other. Things like that happen. Less likely go on to post-secondary education. Not that it's impossible, but again, if academics were a priority to the individual, then we start to wonder, okay, well, why are they in this situation? And the factors that kind of put them in that situation, are they also working against that individual as far as post-secondary education? Some people choose to go to college, and this trend is growing, but there are still factors, characteristics that makes college less likely compared to other groups. If we start looking at the breakdown, okay, 25 to 29 have a bachelor's degree, 37%. Of that 37%, 9% have a master's degree or higher. 35% of young adults enroll in college. Of those attending, there are more females than males, and there are racial disparities. Again, when we look at the overall statistics. One of the challenges is the cost of higher education. Part of the disparity lies with access to resources, right? If you lack resources, you're less likely to attend college. So again, looking at where the differences exist and then doing a further deep dive into trying to understand, well, why do those disparities exist? Then we can start to look for solutions. College education benefits both society and the individual. Individual benefits are conceptualized in terms of higher paying jobs and perhaps an opportunity to improve you and your family's quality of life. Public benefits by having an educated job force that enjoy higher paying jobs would generate higher taxes, property taxes, sales tax, all these things in the local community. Those tax dollars can go for community improvements. Society also benefits by having gainfully employed members, which collectively help establish safe neighborhoods, social cohesion, right? So you have people with resources moving into neighborhoods, and they expect that the neighborhoods and the communities uphold a certain standard based on the taxes that they're paying. So that's kind of what we're getting at as far as how society benefits from individuals obtaining college degrees. Like I said earlier, college isn't the only option for young adults entering the workforce on average. Keep in mind, an average doesn't necessarily translate to each individual that make up the group, um, but leads to lower wages. Uh, but there are trade jobs that can exceed the salary of college graduates, but they're going to require advanced skills attainments, which can be just as challenging as college. So, again, the trade jobs, plumbing, heating and air conditioning, automobile mechanics, uh, as well as allied health, being a dental assistant, nursing assistant, that sort of thing. They can actually, have salaries and income ranges greater than that of someone with, a 4-year degree, master's degree, PhD, even, depending on the trade. So, that's something that is a viable option for a lot of people. There's also going to be a group that choose to enter the military. Some go in doing a 4-year rotation, some decide to make it a career. But, again, as anything else, there are disparities in terms of which group tend to use this option. Some of the explanation, maybe the cost, right? I put quotes around cost of joining the military. There isn't a trial period. Once you commit, you're expected to remain until your service period is complete. You don't get to say, look, hey guys, this isn't working out for me. I'm going to try something else. A little bit. That's not going to happen at that point. It's a very structured environment. This can be a source of stress if you're not suited for this, right? You're going to have someone telling you, what time to get up, where to go, what to do, for a pretty extensive period of time. If that doesn't work for you, you're either going to adjust to it or it's going to be a pretty miserable experience. And then ultimately, warfare can be very traumatic physically and psychologically. The lingering effects of PTSD can be problematic. So there's a lot of things to consider if you're thinking about joining the military, right? You want to make sure that it is a right fit for you, and you are a right fit for the branch of service that you're interested in. However, if these challenges are things you expect and welcome, an opportunity to serve in the military, there are a lot of benefits that kind of go along with that. Steady employment, right? Basically inflation proof. You have a service commitment, and the military has a commitment to you as well. The GI Bill can assist with covering college tuition costs, medical, dental, other benefits. There's upward mobility in terms of advancement. There's all sorts of training that you'll receive that, once you end your military service, those skills you gain in the military, right, may be a viable skill set that you can use in the private world. So again, it can be a viable option for many people. Okay, once the individual has left home and started their own separate, they're still part of the family, but again, not being within the domicile. The stage of leaving home ends. Right? The next stage in the family life cycle is the new couple. Right? So now you form a relationship. That relationship becomes serious. You start to focus on that relationship. Okay, the next stage in the family lifestyle cycle begins when the new couple starts to have children. Okay, think about the changes that occur when children are introduced to the couple dynamic. New responsibilities and duties are taken on by the parents, right? New responsibilities that change, that seems to be a reoccurring theme when it comes time to talking about influences on mental health. As children age into adolescence, not only are they experiencing changes, but the parents do as well. Okay, so again, there's changes going on all over the place. The final stages of the family life cycle revolve around how children are changing over time. Adolescence is a time where children start to form their own independence. Parents often struggle with letting go during this process. When children start to enter their own adulthood and parents must take a step back, this time is known as the family at midlife. So we have a midlife crisis can occur when adults begin to question whether or not they have accomplished everything they should have by this point in time. The expectations we subject ourselves to, if those expectations are not met, a midlife crisis may emerge. As parents age into retirement, the final stage of the family life cycle begins, and that is the family in later life. Okay, the family life cycle seems to describe the traditional family, but not everyone goes that route. Hectic lifestyles that are driven by ambition or not feeling like the timing is right can delay or discourage the notion of having children. Blended family life cycles are those that involve new couples that bring along existing children. There are many reasons new couples come together in these instances. Maybe they've experienced divorce, separation, death of a spouse, right? All of that's going to kind of shape the outlook of the individuals that are coming together. Anytime you bring individuals together, you may run into different perspectives and expectations of how things work. If everyone isn't on the same page, there can be very difficult hurdles to overcome. Counseling is one way to hear everyone and come up with a workable plan. Other determinants of mental health of adults, again, we're not dealing with causal relationships. Divorce doesn't always cause mental distress, but can contribute collectively with other factors to increase stress. So the remaining slides and the remaining entries into the textbook, you can kind of follow along as it steps through each of these determinants: divorce, obesity, SES, and work-related stress. And as you read about these determinants, start thinking about how each one, how it could result in creating a stressful period of time, and how people could work to avoid that. So if someone's going through a divorce, right, understanding what aspects of divorce can contribute to mental health, and start thinking about, okay, well, what could we do to minimize that impact? And go through and do that for each one of them. Okay, so that does it for chapter 10.